welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful April the 2nd, 2021. Down to the Portraits. Bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's stimulating. I want to give a shout out to Baseball Commissioner Rob Vance. He grew some baseballs today. He moved the All-Star game out of the city of Atlanta based on voter suppression. This is the second major sport that has been moved from a southern city on discrimination. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They never discriminate against anyone.
They never discriminate against anyone. It's good to throw out the first pitch, if that makes sense to you. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. And at the same time, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Ready to have a smart TV? Oh, you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, everybody's pausing. I'm glad the commissioner paused on what the good old boys are trying to get away with down in Georgia. It's not going to work, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced, helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, we lose over 2,000 veterans a day to suicide in this country. And if you think that our state legislators that are spending so much effort in trying to create voter suppression laws in America,
right,
if they put that much effort into saving the lives of our veterans, trying to find a way to stem the tide of suicide in this country, then we wouldn't lose so many veterans and everyday people in America. But it's more important for them to think about voter suppression than it is about them saving lives, Charlton. Our veterans provided a way for those guys to sit in the office and steal America's time and not do as much for their constituents as they should, instead of being self-serving. Self-serving creates suicide in this country, Charlton, because you're not thinking about the people that are suffering emotionally, mentally, and physically, like our veterans do. And so I hope that our politicians take heed to that. Stop trying to suppress the vote and start trying to save lives.
Very well said. I love doing our part. 800-273-8255. 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255, and get some help. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also, I'm very happy to be affiliated with Valley, home of weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run King Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams are doing it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can see about opportunities all over the country. Also, I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. And it's amazing how hot it is in California, and it was snowing in Detroit yesterday. But you said the commissioner, he picked up a couple of baseballs. Big C, you said? Is that what you said? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Rob Manfred stood up, Charlton, against voter suppression and suppression of black and colored people in America. You know, this happened a couple of years ago in Charlotte when the NBA moved the All-Star game out of Charlotte because of a bill that dealt with gender inequality, Charlton, in
that's
Charlotte.
Right. That's
and
right.
The NBA was not going to back and stand for that. And once again, a major league sport in America has gone after a state that has challenged the inequality of people of color, Charlton, of people as American citizens, to suppress their vote, Charlton. And baseball stood up. Rob Manfred today, he moved the All-Star game out of the city of Atlanta, which I think is a great feat, because you have to let politicians know that you just can't run roughshod over all of the citizens. You have to treat each and every citizen equally. Professional sports does that. When you think about the diversity amongst, athletes on any sports team, they all are treated equal, Charlton, and states are not doing that.
Yep.
So I appreciate what professional sports is doing when people say sports and politics don't mix.
Yep.
They're a damn lie. Sports and politics do mix, because sports can cost politics money.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. There's an old saying, Manfred up at the plate, Kemp at the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. And we have the baseball commissioner hit a home run, and the crowd goes nuts. They got to do it all over the country. We know they're trying to do it in more states than just Georgia. Really like when people do the right thing. And you know what, Big C? It's not that hard to do the right thing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you think about oppressing people because you can't go out and attract new people to your party because you do not have a message.
Yeah.
Just like in slavery, you did not have a message other than oppression, keeping people from their inalienable rights as human beings.
Yeah.
And once again, as we see 43 states across the country trying to enact those policies against just normal, everyday people because they don't appreciate or respect the way that they vote. They feel that they're not salient enough to show their own feelings and who they're willing to vote for.
Yeah.
And these states want to take that away from them, Charlton. So professional sports is a bloodline to every community, Charlton, financially.
Yeah,
and respectfully in your community to show how diverse and how much it has grown.
Big
and
C.
when you get spanked on the hand by a professional team, Charlton, it really affects a lot of people. And when you can point that at the politicians showing you're the reason why this is occurring to the people of your state, maybe you ought to treat them more as equal.
Yeah, so Brian Kemp, Governor Kemp, got picked off trying to steal first, if that makes sense to you. Trying to steal the vote is all fair and love and war. But just to expound on what you said, I'm really proud of Commissioner Manfred, Big C. He could have been a coward. He could have said, well, now it's not the right time. I got to have lunch and dinner and play golf with these good old boys. But he didn't do that. He did pick up some baseballs, if that makes sense to you. Major League Baseball, as you have mentioned, it announced today that it's moving the 2021 All-Star Game out of Atlanta in response to a new Georgia law that has civil rights groups concerned, and they got to pick up the bat and swing the bat if they're concerned, Big C, because it's about restricting voting access for people of color and people in rural areas too, which also affects Caucasian people, so they should be upset about it as well. 2021 Major League Baseball draft, a new addition to All-Star Game festivities this year, will also be relocated, Big C. In a statement by Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Manfred hit a home run, Big C. He said the league is finalizing a new host city, and the details about the events will be announced shortly. I think that's the right thing to do, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when these politicians are so low that they try to sneak these laws through to obstruct the local people in their states, Charlton, it's wrong. Baseball is out front in telling you what they're going to do and why they're doing it. I mean, when you had a state elected official, an African-American woman, arrested for knocking on the governor's door, and the police saying that they felt it was going to be an insurrection by this one black woman, that she posed a threat to these 5 white officers, that they had to arrest her and charge her with 2 felonies, Charlton. White people that had stormed the Capitol did not get charged with that many felonies. So this shows how oppression is dealt with in the South, Charlton, by not allowing black people access to equality.
Yeah, and Manfred's a Caucasian man, and it takes good people to do the right thing. And I applaud him for doing that, because he could have been one of those guys that say, well, right now is not the time. Let's get through the baseball season first, and then we'll address it. Like the good old boy tried to say about the NCAA, Mark Emmett. Let's wait till Final Four's over, and then we'll address inequalities. No, Manfred said you picked off at first base. Also, Big C, he also mentioned the 2022 All-Star Game that is still planned for a beautiful renovated Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California. That site will not be moved up to fill the void this summer for the game they're taking out of Georgia, and that's a good thing. I would like to get your opinion on where they could take the All-Star Game since they're going to take it out of Atlanta, because the commissioner in baseball does not want to support discrimination and segregation, and also Coca-Cola and I think a couple of other companies are doing the same thing. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, not just Coca-Cola. You got Delta, you got American Airlines, you got AT&T, Charlton. You got several large companies in America that's raising their eyebrows about these voter suppression laws in various states where they have their corporate headquarters in America, Charlton. We have to look at a state when this is being moved to, Charlton, that you're not dealing with voter suppression, that you don't have laws on the books where you're trying to curtail the ability to vote of the citizens of that state.
Yeah.
We know that there's 43 states where that has been put on the ledger, Charlton.
That's right.
So I think that baseball has to look at a state where we don't have to deal with voter suppression being on the books of the state legislators.
There's a song back in the day called California Love. Bringing to California is all fair and love, and we're really proud of Commissioner Rob Manfred. And again, doesn't matter what skin color you are, it's always easy to do the right thing. It's more difficult when you don't do the right thing. And speaking of baseball, we have our second day of Major League Baseball. But before we get into some of the things that are happening today in Major League Baseball, number one, I want to applaud Manfred. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, Big C, didn't have to do the right thing. Want to give him a standing applause if that makes sense, Big C. At the same time, Major League Baseball history, when you think about it, is ripe with so many great moments in American history. And to see, for the dumb people that say sports and politics don't mix, just open your eyes, because everything mixes, Big C. Just like the day and the night, they blend together. Major League Baseball has heard its opening day of this season. Let's look at some of the immortal baseball records that may never be broken. Just like voter oppression, Big C, oppression should always be broken. And Manfred put his foot down and tagged somebody out at first base. And hopefully they can recall Governor Kemp down there in Georgia for breaking constitutional rights. I want to look at 20 Major League Baseball records that will never be broken. It's hard to say the word never, but at the same time, you think of the Cy Young's 511 Major League Baseball wins. I could pretty close come to saying never, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that is an immortal record in baseball that will never be broken. You think about a pitcher having over 500 wins. You know, with today's specialty pitcher, that a pitcher will basically get 6 innings or less in a start nowadays in Major League, and they have so many specialty relievers that come into a game. Cy Young pitched in an era when you pitch complete games.
Yeah.
You think about him having the most win, over 500 in Major League history in a career.
Amazing.
He also has the most losses in a career.
Yeah.
So he has 2 feats that will never be duplicated.
Yep. Picking up the ball and throwing it across the plate. Strike one! He's about strike. He got 500 wins. That's amazing. There's a lot of strikes when you have 511 wins. Another, I think the best base runner in the history of the universe, the great Ricky Henderson. Ricky would always talk to himself. He believed in that metaphysical stuff. He said, Ricky's going to steal second. Ricky's going to steal second. Ricky stole second. It's all fair in 11 war. But his baseball bases stolen record most likely will never, ever be eclipsed, at least in the next 100 years, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, that's another one of those immortal records. When you think about the great Ricky Henderson, you know, when he broke Lou Brock's record, and Lou had over 900 stolen bases in his career, and no one ever thought someone would get to Lou Brock's record. But when you think about Ricky Henderson having over 1,400 stolen bases in his Major League career, Charlton, nowadays, if you get someone that steals 50, maybe 60 bases in a single season, that's an astronomical number that will always reach the Major League.
Yep.
Ricky eclipsed the 100 stolen base mark twice in his career. So he's like Wilt Chamberlain. No one's going to score 100 points in a basketball game. No one's going to steal 1,400 bases in Major League Baseball.
I'm glad that's the record you decided no one's going to break for the great Wilt Chamberlain. Big C. It's all fair in 11 war. Ichiro's 200 and 62 hits. That's also amazing, Big C. Your thoughts?
You got to go out and play every day, Charlton, to be able to get 262 hits.
Yep.
And that's what Ichiro did. And you think about all the great baseball players over time. Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, Maris, Mantle, even Babe Ruth. No one ever had 262 singles, base hits in a season. And Ichiro accomplished that. And players take too many days off now with load management to ever eclipse his record.
Yeah, and amazing how these records, they'll never be broken, or maybe, I hate to say never, but most likely won't be broken. And imagine the money they would have made if they were playing in today's age, Big C. You also look at Chief Wilson, Big C, 36 triples in a single season, which is absolutely phenomenal, Big C. Your thoughts?
You got some players, Charlton, can't get 36 singles in a season. And he had 36 triples. That means he was smacking the ball around the ball yard, Charlton. But he's legging it out. You talk about the ultimate effort every time you put your bat on the ball.
Yep.
That's what Wilson did. And that 39, Charlton, it's one of those benchmarks that's been around for 100 years.
Yeah, it's been around 100 years. Maybe last another 100 years. Hit deep, right field. Hack Wilson, Big C, 191 runs batted in is amazing. Your thoughts?
That's picking them up, putting them down. So you talk about on-base percentage and slugging percentage. That's what you get when you get 191 runs batted in. I mean, we go apoplectic now when someone gets 100 RBIs on a baseball season, and people think about 120. Wow, you're the greatest hitter of the season. But 191 runs of productivity at the plate, just outstanding baseball.
It's outstanding baseball. The pitch, hit deep, center field, back to the wall. The great Ty Cobb did it again. A great batting average. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about Ty Cobb's batting average, I mean, we always hear about people, chasing that 400 plateau for a season, Charlton, which Ty Cobb did that a couple times in his major league career. Matter of fact, he's the last guy to do it.
Yeah.
But to have a lifetime batting average of 367, we think about now, guys bat 267, and they make $25-30 million a year, Charlton. Ty Cobb did 367 for his career. If he was a modern-day baseball player, Charlton, he would have a $500 million contract.
He would have that contract. Speaking of contract, Big C, I hate when they keep guys out. Nobody's perfect. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. The great Pete Rose, 4,256 hits, Big C. Your thoughts?
You talk about a pitcher's nightmare, Charlton. That was Mr. Charlie Hustle.
Yeah.
It's sad that he's not in baseball's Hall of Fame. Baseball has been notorious for cheating through every decade that has ever played, Charlton.
Yep.
I mean, you can't find 5 players in the history of baseball who never cheated, okay? That is as simple as that. Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he's the all-time hit record of Major League Baseball.
I remember as a young boy watching Pete Rose come up with that big rep machine, and that was like watching Barry Bonds. You put everything on pause because Pete was going to get a hit. It's all fair in love and war. He should be in the Hall of Fame. If a lot of people are in, he should be in the Hall of Fame, just my opinion. Big C, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run, Joe DiMaggio, a 56-game hitting streak. That means he got a hit in every game, Big C, for 56 in a row. Big C, your thoughts?
But Charlton, not only did he get a hit for 56 games in a row in the Diamond, Charlton, he had a hit every night he went home because he was married to Marilyn Monroe. So, he was hitting every time he went home and to the Diamond.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. He wasn't the only one that had the good fortune, and that makes sense to you, Big C. It's all fair in love and war. Big C, the great Cal Ripken, the pitch, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run, the great Cal Ripken, 2,632 consecutive games, Big C, your thoughts?
The Iron Man of all time in baseball, when you think about the accolades of Cal Ripken Jr., Charlton, to play over 2,600 consecutive games. And the only reason the streak ended is that he told the manager to take him off of the lineup cards the next night, Charlton. But that record will never be broken in baseball because players miss a game now because they have a hangnail or a headache.
Yeah, it's amazing when we think about how many great players there are in baseball now. Most of these guys now will never come close to some of the great players that we're talking about throughout the history of the game. The score is tied at 5. In the pitch, down the middle for a strike. And then that's the great Nolan Ryan, Big C. 5,714 career strikeouts. He was striking out everybody. Even Santa Claus couldn't get a hit on Nolan Ryan, Big C. Your thoughts?
When you think about the Texas Express, Nolan Ryan, Charlton, I mean, he spent his entire career with the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers. I take that back. He started off with the New York Mets. He was part of that 69 World Series team with the New York Mets. But this fireballer, Charlton, you think about the consistency of being able to strike out players and have that type of command at the plate. Over 5,000 times, you sent guys back to the dugout shaking their head.
Yeah, and when you think about it also, the pitch, down the middle strike! Big C, he also had 7 career no-hitters. How do you have a no-hitter, number 1, but to have 7, Big C, your thoughts?
They praise the modern-day player, Charlton, when he gets 1, maybe 2. That's having an outstanding career. 3 will get you in the Hall of Fame. Nolan Ryan did it 7 times. No hitters, Charlton. You think about guys not going back to the dugout just shaking their head, but they cussing out everybody, even himself.
He was striking out everybody. He could even strike out himself in the mirror. It's all fair and level war. Also, when you throw a lot of strikes and you throw a lot of pitches, he also has 2,795 walks, but you got more strikeouts than walks. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that means he did not always have command of the plate, Charlton, and he didn't get the benefit of the doubt of the umpire. But it showed the consistency and longevity of his career, Charlton, that he was not worried about a mistake, that he could still come back and strike you out.
He could still come back and strike you out. You think about the great Johnny Vander, Big C. You think about it, back-to-back no-hitters is also pretty difficult, Big C. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we celebrate Nolan Ryan having 7 on his career, but Vanderbilt with back-to-back no-hitters, Charlton, that's a feat that never be accomplished. We celebrate a pitcher having 2 throughout an illustrious career. This guy did it on back-to-back outings.
Back-to-back outings. You know it's hard to do anything in back-to-back in Major League Sports. The pitch hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. The great Hammering Hank. And he did it on cleanliness. Let's just put it that way. He was clean. He was a clean hitter to Big C. 25 All-Star games, the great Hank Aaron. Big C, your thoughts?
When we think about excellence in baseball, Hank Aaron personifies all of that, Charlton, with his character, with his ability, and his professionalism. 25 consecutive All-Star games. 25. You think about a player wanting to have a 25-year career. But this man was so excellent on and off of the field, Charlton, that he was voted to the game 25 times in his career. That's longevity and excellence. And he has the clean home run record in Major League Baseball. And he lost 2 years in the military.
He lost 2 years in the military. That's very well said. Good knowledge, Big C, losing 2 years in the military and still had 25 All-Star games for the great Hammering Hank. Also, for the great Hammering Hank, 6,856 career total bases, and he also lost 2 years in the military. Big C, your thoughts?
We glorify everybody, Charlton, on home runs, on base hits, and singles and steals. But when you talk about the complete ball player, when Hank Aaron retired from the game of baseball, he set the table for whatever excellence represented. And it will never be defeated, Charlton, because he was the home run king. He was the total base king. He was the all-star king. But when you talk about a guy holding multiple titles at the end of his career, Hammering Hank has to be looked at as the greatest baseball player of all time.
And he's just amazing. The late, great Hank Aaron, maybe the best baseball player in the history of the universe. Everybody has their own flavor. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of Major League Baseball. Big C, when you think about championship teams, and everybody's talking about teams that can make a run, we have UCLA with their 11 national championships. They're trying to get 12. You also have UConn with their 11 national championships. They're trying to get 12. With the Boston Celtics, they've got 17 NBA championships. The Los Angeles Lakers, 17 NBA championships. And that's amazing. You think about what the Yankees have done. The Yankees, 15 World Series appearances in 18 years, Big C. Your thoughts? That's what they clear for you.
You know, at one point, Charleston, people were talking about naming it the New York Yankees Open, Charleston. Because every year in the World Series, it seemed like you had a New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Only 2 professional organizations in the history of sports, Charleston, have made that many consecutive appearances in their sport. You think about the great Boston Celtics, Charleston, that went 11 in 13 years. 11 national, NBA title chances in 13 years. The great New York Yankees, 15 opportunities in an 18-year run, Charleston.
Yeah.
Those East Coast teams, just outstanding representatives of their league.
Yeah, a lot of good old boys said they had some good old boys that were working behind the plate, too, sometimes. You know, in New York, you got to know the mob if you want to be in sports, if that makes sense to you. Some of those guys get their friends jobs umpiring in baseball games. Just a rumor, I can't confirm or deny, but it's all fair level war. 15 straight World Series appearances, that's amazing. Also, coming back to the more modern era, Fernando Tatis, Big C, 2 Grand Slams and 1 inning, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, the pitcher that was pitching in that game didn't have Nolan Ryan's ability. Let's just say
that's true.
That here's an opportunity that you come up to bat twice in the same inning, Charleston. You've had to have at least 9 guys go to the plate in front of you on 2 different occasions. And all of a sudden, Tatis yanks twice out of the yard, grand slam. I mean, he got 8 RBIs in 1 inning. That's a month for a lot of players in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he comes up in the inning, the pitch hit deep, right field, back to the wall, a home run, and then he's not done. He comes up again in the same inning, Big C. The pitch hit deep, left field, back to the wall, a home run. The great Fernando Tatis. That guy is absolutely amazing, Big C. Wish him nothing but the best. But also, we talked about the Yankees, that 15 appearances in 18 years, I don't think that will ever be back by any sport, Big C. And if even going to the high school level, there's a program called De La Salle of Concord, California, out here in California. They've won 29 section championships in a row in the Bay Area, one of the top high school teams in the country. But that's not professional sports, Big C. That's amazing what the Yankees did. And also, Take Me Out to the Ball Game. That's a great song sang by the late Harry Carey of the Chicago Cubs, Big C. But they had a World Series drought that will probably never be eclipsed, Big C.
Well, you know, the Chicago Cubs, you know, everybody loved the Cubs, because they was a laughable loser. 118-year drought in getting to the World Series before Joe Madden was able to break that drought, Charleston, and the Cubs won the World Series versus the Cleveland Indians. But you think about 118 years of futility. That's a lot of frustration. Yeah,
it's a lot of frustration. And that's the thing I love about what the great Manfred did today in deciding that he was not going to let baseball pretend like it's intellectually vapid. And I know you can't please everybody, but at least let's not try to please the dumb people in our society, Big C. The people that think that you can end people's right to vote or make it more difficult for people's right to vote. That's why I appreciate the knowledge of bringing up some Major League Baseball knowledge of what happened in the world of sports and going back through the history. And I really appreciate that baseball is back. Looking forward to a lot of great things happening in the world of baseball. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what's going on in the sports universe, where there's college basketball and also a little bit of NBA. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and do it now. Just say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. Big C, just touching on what happened in Georgia with hopefully erstwhile Governor Brian Kemp, and then you have the baseball commissioner, Rob Manfred, same skin colors, but just because you have the same skin color doesn't mean that you're all going to do the right thing. Again, what does it mean, not just to baseball, but to the fans that want to stand behind someone doing the right thing? Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, but both of them also are different ethnicity, okay? Brian Kemp's a redneck from Georgia. Rob Manfred's an Italian from New York. A little different mindset when it comes to equality and oppression in America, Charlton. You know, when you look at that, it lets you know that politicians should be equal when it comes to the citizens that they represent of their state, that they cannot side with one side. It's supposed to be equality and represent everybody.
Yeah.
You cannot take sides in politics, Charlton. You have to say you're representing all people when you're elected to office because you're representing a state.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel that way. Nor did the people that he believes in, the Republicans, felt that way. He's a backer of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he felt that the big lie was the reason why they needed to change voting rights in Georgia. And if you're going to live with the big lie, you need to be able to suffer the consequences of it, Charlton.
Yeah. I really appreciate what he did today. Major League Baseball schedule is not as big today as it was on opening day for Major League Baseball. Big C, the Dodgers playing the Rockies already in Colorado. They got had yesterday. And then to have the White Sox playing the Los Angeles Angels. The Houston Astros are playing in Oakland against the Oakland Athletics. The Diamondbacks are playing the Padres. Big C, the Giants gave up a come-from-behind win last night. They lost at Seattle. The Mariners got them last night. So there's going to be a lot of good baseball played over the weekend, and I hope that everybody can just look forward to baseball. I know they're starting to allow some of the crowds get back into the games, Big C, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to that, and it's all fair in love and war. I want to touch a little bit on some college basketball. I know we have a game that's already been decided between South Carolina and Stanford, two great universities, Big C. But college basketball, the NCAA has not tested players for performance-enhancing drugs at March Madness. In other recent college championships, the Associated Press, they've learned that 3 people with the direct knowledge of the NCAA testing protocol said that full-scale testing has not resumed since the COVID-19 pandemic shut down college sports over 1 year ago. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, how much enhancement can you have in basketball? I mean, you know, you have great athletes to start with. Performance-enhancing drugs, you know, at this level, they've dealt with enough dealing with COVID-19, you know, testing, you know, lay off the other stuff. And I don't think that you can take enough supplements during a basketball abbreviated season to improve your play. You can either shoot or not. Yeah,
well, everybody has a feeling about that, and that's one of the reasons that they're keeping Barry Bonds out of the Baseball Hall of Fame. I do hope that he'll get in, and it makes sense that he would get in. But I do want to touch on women's college basketball. You have Coach Don Staley, for not mincing words. The first time 2 African-American coaches have reached the NCAA Women's Final Four. Staley's one of those coaches, and she uses her platform to say to those who run college basketball have no right to bask in this moment. There's so many African-American coaches out there that don't get opportunities. Imagine if they treated athletes and coaches the same. You would either have more opportunities for black coaches, or you would have fewer opportunities for black athletes. Just juxtapose the two, how one is praised and the other says, well, maybe it's too soon. But when you think about that, she wants people to get opportunity. That's all everybody wants. And she said after a South Carolina game, Cox throttled Texas to earn the right to play Stanford. Arizona's Adita Barnes is the other African-American coach in the Final Four. Her team faces a perennial juggernaut in UConn on Friday in San Antonio. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you just think about this, that you have black coaches speaking up for the right to coach in college basketball, Charlton, seeking equal opportunity. And they're speaking to the athletic directors and presidents of universities, Charlton, when she makes that type of statement. But they have shown that black women have the ability to succeed at this level in college basketball as well as men do, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when not given opportunity because you're interviewed by people who do not look like you, it makes your chances very slim.
Yeah, it makes it very slim. Kind of like Hidden Figures, the basketball coaching version of it, Big C, pinpointing a system in which too many athletic directors don't see the intellect of African-American women, Big C, and she's very right about that. Staley, who steered her team to the NCAA title in 2017, she proclaimed they're going to see it on the biggest stage. For emphasis, she added the story of women's basketball is filled with so many African-American bodies, as we talked about. If they looked at women and men the same, it would be one thing when it comes to pay equality. But when it comes to equality for just coaching, it's the same thing that happens against black women. They're going to see it, Big C. Too many people have to wait for too long for no excuse, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they've seen it for a long time. They have not been oblivious to what they have not done for black men and women when it comes to the coaching ranks in collegiate and professional sports, Charlton. When that person across the table does not look like you or have the same, not intellect, but thought process that
same
you
thoughts.
do.
Yeah.
This is the problem when it comes to interviewing. When they say, well, they didn't interview well. I couldn't tell a racial joke in the interview. I couldn't denigrate minority people in the interview, and they would accept that. This is the reason why they don't interview well. And so this is the reason why they don't always get jobs.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about doing the right thing. People got to do the right thing, just like baseball commissioner Rob Manfred did the right thing. It's not that hard to do the right thing. When you think about it, it's more difficult to do the wrong thing. Sometimes doing the wrong thing sends you to prison, and some people don't mind going, but it's all fair and love and war. When you talked about 2 black coaches in the women's Final Four, it's so overdue that it's only served to shine a harsh light on the overall lack of black head coaches that scandalizes both the men's and women's game. And I'm so proud that you have women speaking up for themselves, and hopefully she'll get some white counterparts that will speak the same way. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, everybody's been aware. All the white counterparts have been aware of the improprieties when it comes to black coaching opportunities in any league, Charlton. And so it's not about the white counterparts speaking up. It's about the white athletic directors and white presidents of these universities doing the right thing. Yeah,
it's got to do the right thing. And just like they say, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? Yes, it makes a sound. It makes a sound, Big C. Think about the Stanford Cardinal women's college basketball. For the 3rd time in her career, Stanford Cardinal coach Tara Vanderbilt, Big C. She was named the Naismith Women's College Basketball Coach of the Year. She's been doing her thing for a long time down on the farm at Stanford, Big C. She previously won the award in 1990 and also in 2011. Vanderbilt, she's only 67 years old, so she's still a relatively young woman, Big C. In her 35th season with the Stanford Cardinal, who are in their 14th Women's Final Four, will face South Carolina. That game's already concluded today, Big C, but it's something that Stanford has done under her tutelage for 35 seasons, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, she's been a powerful member of the Pac-12, Charlton, the senior coach out there in that division. She's ran a quality program in her tenure there on the farm at Stanford. And, you know, she's well discerning of this award.
Yeah, she's really well deserving of it. I know everybody has their own thoughts about it, but I want to ask you one more thing. I know we don't talk much about the HBCU when it comes to March Madness. A lot of the programs may not get in because just the way it's slated. A lot of the men's programs, they tend to get in and they get to play against some of the women or the men, Big C, on the men's side. Not so much said on the women's side. Do you think we'll see more of that change anytime soon, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if we can ever get paid quality in college sports, it will drive a lot more African-American elite athletes back to the HBCUs. But they're driven to go to these predominant, mainstream universities because of the economic advantage that they also receive.
Yeah, they receive a lot of the economic advantage. And I love the fact that we have even the conversation to talk about it when it comes to men and women and what they get to do when it comes to the role of college sports. And just seeing what happened with the NCAA Women's Final Four National Championship matchups in the women's college basketball universe. Number 1 South Carolina versus number 1 seed Stanford, number 3 seed Arizona versus number 1 seed UConn. I know one game is already decided, and then we have another game coming up on Saturday. But what I do appreciate, Big C, when you look at the level of star power in this year's NCAA Women's Final Four, it's astonishing to behold not just the amount of talent involved, but the diversity of it promises a great weekend ahead with Stanford in the South Carolina game, Big C, also UConn and Arizona, and the winners are going to face off on Sunday. I thought Christmas was on Sunday for football only. The winners going to play on Sunday for the national championship, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they always play the day before the men do, but either way you look at it.
Yeah.
You got great competitors, great intelligent women that are going to be performing. I mean, I always appreciate the women above the men because you got ladies that go to school for an education. You got guys always trying to get to the next level.
Yeah, trying to get to the next level. And when the women are great, they still don't make the same kind of money that men do at the next level. But just congratulations to all four programs. Coaches are the most dazzling: Tyra Vanderveer, Don Staley, Gino Ariema, and Adia Barnes. I wish them all nothing but the best, and I know they're chomping at the bits to see who's going to have that national championship trophy going back to their great university. It's all fair and love and war. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about the world of college basketball on the men's side. You think about Gonzaga's Jalen Suggs, Big C, UConn's Paige Bueckers, and the friendship that fuels March Madness, born 139 days and 20-some miles apart in an area known more for hockey. At Giants Mall and Paul Bunyan, Suggs and the Buckeyes wasted no time building their own local legends in basketball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you think about friendships, people don't always consider that when it comes to the collegiate ranks, Charlton.
Yeah.
But you have a young man and a young woman that went to school together, they grew up together, Charlton, and they still foster that friendship even though they're 3,000 miles apart.
Yeah, now that they're apart. But before they were separated by 3,000 miles, or before they became two of the most exciting basketball players in the country, you have Jalen Suggs and Paige Bueckers, Big C, were little kids with common dreams growing up together. In the Twin Cities metro area of Minneapolis, St. Paul, we know a lot of things are going on in Minneapolis right now with the Officer Chauvin trial, Big C. But over never-ending games of 21 at Suggs and family barbecues while snipping milkshakes side by side, they discovered to share a same truth, a common truth, Big C. When the game is on the line and when the lights are brightest, they want the ball in their hands. And this time next year, Jalen Suggs is expected to be playing basketball in the NBA, and Paige Bueckers will be back at UConn, teaming up with Azizi Fudd, Big C. The first friends share the bright spotlights of what we call March Madness, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, Suggs was one of those dual sport athletes in college, Charlton. He had an opportunity to play quarterback or play college basketball. He was that great of an athlete. And now that both of them are on the biggest stage of all time in college basketball, being in the Final Four, hoping to hoist the championship trophy, Charlton, this weekend. What a great accolade for friends who grew up since their childhood, sharing the same dreams and having an opportunity to capture the same dreams.
Yeah, they're all looking to capture the same dreams. And I know we have some big games coming up, whether it's going to be the Baylor game or the Houston game, Big C, Baylor and Houston, or UCLA and Gonzaga. I want to touch on the UCLA men's side first. UCLA, their number 11 seed, Big C, coming into this March Madness weekend. They beat Big Ten champion Michigan, number 1 seed, 51-49, advanced to their 19th Final Four since the 2008 season. And number 11 seed makes it to the Final Four, UCLA, and this year, and then Loyola Chicago 2018, Virginia Commonwealth in 2011, George Mason 2006, and LSU in 1986, Big C. But no number 11 seed has made a national title game, and UCLA beat the SEC champion Alabama and the Big Ten champions. But now, coming up for this weekend's game, there's no Lou Alcindor, Big C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, no Bill Walton, and I believe this is already set for Gonzaga to win it. That's just my opinion. You're going to see UCLA in a lot of foul trouble. They'll call a lot of fouls on the Bruins, Big C, versus Gonzaga. But take nothing away from Gonzaga. The Bulldogs are the West Coast Conference champion. They're the first team ever with 5+ 30 or more win seasons, or 5+ 30 win seasons, Big C. 30 games is a lot to do, and they've done that 5 years in a row. And when you think about it, it's a revenge game versus the 2006 loss to UCLA, in the final 11 points of the game were scored by UCLA. And final thoughts, Johnny Using is tied with Bill Walton with 108 points, and the great Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, leads them all with 134 points in 5 NCAA tournament games. He's going to pass Bill Walton and be maybe just behind Kareem, or he may go past Kareem. You never know. He's not that far away from doing it. And no team east of the Mississippi River for the Final Four this time, and the first time in the history of Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, this game comes down to speed and execution. I think that's going to be the mainstay of this game. I don't see fouls playing a part in it. I see that Gonzaga getting out running consistently, which is something that it's not UCLA's game, but it's Gonzaga's folklore.
Yeah.
You look a lot of times, Charlton, they scored 45, 50 points at halftime.
Yeah.
They put a lot of pressure on the defense of opposing teams, and that's what they do well. And so UCLA has not been an up-tempo team throughout the tournament. You think about they only scored 51 in that last game. Gonzaga can easily get that at the half.
Yeah, it's about who's controlling the tempo of this game. And to me, I said that Gonzaga, in my opinion, based on research and a lot of factors, they become the second Jesuit university since the great Georgetown and the great John Thompson won it back in the day, and they'll most likely get it done for the West Coast Conference also. But also, I want to look at the other side of the championship. You have Gonzaga, UCLA, of course, and then you have the Baylor versus Houston. It really is a battle of Houston, Big C, and can the Houston Cougars overcome a much more physical team in the Baylor Bears? Big C, I don't think they can overcome the physicality. I believe that Houston can run with them, but Baylor, in my opinion, they're just a little bit more physical. But again, it's all about who can shoot the hot shot. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is a game where fouls will make a difference in the game. You talk about the physicality of Baylor. We know that Houston is full of a bunch of greyhounds. They will get up and down the floor, Charlton.
Yeah.
But can they play with that inside game of Baylor when they have to get physical, Charlton? Can they stay out of foul trouble?
Yeah, they're going to have to stay out of foul trouble. And I hope that we don't see what happened with UConn and their game with Baylor on the women's side, where we saw that some shenanigans went on at the end of it. So it's going to be great basketball theater. I know that every team, they've earned the right to fight through COVID, Big C. They've all had the right to fight through COVID. Many of these programs, they did not even have the chance to go to class and be with their classmates. Big C, give me your thoughts on what it means for a lot of these programs, men and women, to just stay focused on basketball without even being able to go to class. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think everybody understood what COVID was, and it wasn't even in the back of their minds. Their thoughts were about completing the season and playing basketball.
Yeah.
Everybody's aware of COVID. It's been around for a year. It's going to be around even longer. So, I mean, it's about the athleticism. Athletes have always been able to focus on what they're trying to achieve and not worry about outside distractions.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and war. I do wish them nothing but the best, whether it's the men's side for the UCLA Bruins, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, may they represent the West Coast well, and also the Baylor Bears and the Houston Cougars, may they also represent the Southwest, if that makes sense to you. Big C, just a little bit of what's going on in the world of NBA basketball. It's always great when you have NBA basketball. I know some players have traded teams. They've changed zip codes, Big C, but then also a lot of players seem to be banged up too. Golden State's at Toronto, Houston's at Boston, Dallas is at the New York. Yeah, think about the New York is finding to have the New York Knicks in the thick of things. Dallas might smoke them tonight, Big C. Charlotte's at Indiana, Minnesota's at Memphis, Atlanta's at New Orleans. You have Chicago at Utah, OKC is at Phoenix, and Milwaukee's at Portland. The LA Lakers are at Sacramento. Big C, give me your thoughts. I know the game's already underway, but Dallas going into New York, the great Luka Doncic get to see the Big Apple. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you cannot discount Julius Randolph-led New York Knicks, Charlton. They are an equal combatant for those Dallas Mavericks. I'm not so sure that Dallas can walk into the Big Apple and walk out with a victory. The Knicks are for real. They're an above 500 team, Charlton, and they don't take second fiddle to anybody when they're on the court.
They don't take second fiddle to anybody when they're on the court. You know, a team that's gotten a lot better, but it doesn't seem that they don't always play better. And I still look at Atlanta. Now they're back down south, Big C. They're playing New Orleans, the Pelicans. It's a game where it seems like Atlanta is a better team on paper. I know they had that hot win streak, 8 in a row, coming out of the All-Star break with the great Nick McMillan. And they seem to hit a little bit of turbulence. Maybe they had their wings clipped a couple of times. Can the deep shooting of Atlanta handle the great Zion Williamson at home, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, no one fears the Pelicans when they go to New Orleans, Charlton. I mean, this is a team that is good in the media's eyes. They're not good on the floor, so they don't strike any fear in any opponents going down to New Orleans. Yeah,
it's all fair and love and war. OKC is at Phoenix. Phoenix is going to challenge Utah for the top seed coming out of the Western Conference. But then another big game on the West Coast. You have the Milwaukee Bucks. They flying out to the West Coast. They're going to take on the Portland Trailblazers. I call them the mighty Trailblazers at times because they play very mighty. Other times they have a little bit of a hitch in their giddy up, Big C. But it's always great when you have two dynamic players, Dalading versus Giannis Antetokounmpo. Can a Buck go into Portland and not end up on a barbecue grill, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I don't think that they're going to have any problem with the Trailblazers, especially if Middleton can find his game. We know that Giannis will be a dominant player. I mean, Cantor will try to offset what he does, but Giannis will get his points against the Milwaukee Bucks. If Middleton can come along and knock in 20, the Bucks should win with ease.
Give me your feeling on a game, Houston. I know already underway, but Houston at Boston. Houston's been a really hard-luck team since James Harden left town, Big C. The Boston Celtics, some nights they look good. Other nights they look like they want to stay at 500. The great Danny Ainge came out and spoke to them, and it kind of lit a fire under them. But they're just playing like they're inconsistent. I haven't seen this in Boston in many, many moons. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, who is Houston? Houston is a team in Jersey only.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that lacks the ability to want to win consistently. We know how great James Harden was to that franchise, and as he's left, Charlton, this has been a dismal performing team. They'll go into Boston. Boston will get correct tonight and walk away with an easy victory.
Yeah, we're looking for Boston to do something consistent. It's all fair in love and war. And then final game that I want to bring up tonight, I know it's important for California. You have the Los Angeles Lakers. They've been leaking a little bit of jet fuel. They're at the Sacramento Kings, Northern California Sacramento Kings. It's West Coast versus West Coast. The Kings have been on a winning streak of sorts that they haven't seen since they were a perennial playoff team back in the mid-2000s. There's no LeBron James. There's no Anthony Davis. The great De'Aaron Fox was Player of the Week last week, Big C. And there's something about the Sacramento Kings. They see a kind of, I won't say a sleeping giant, but they see a giant coming into town leaking at the great Golden One Center. And De'Aaron Fox can establish himself as more of a national name if they get a good performance out of here tonight. So, your thoughts?
Well, no, players in the league know who players are. I mean, you got two bad teams on the West Coast playing against each other. The Lakers will come to Sacramento and lose another game tonight.
Well, they've been trying to win, but somebody is stubbing a toe. You stub a toe every now and then, even when they trade players, they stub a toe, and they're going to try to stop stubbing toes tonight. It's all fair in love and war. I want to touch a little bit on what's going on in the NHL. It's been so hot in California. Everybody could use a little thunder and ice, Big C. Tonight, you think about the nightmares over for the Buffalo Sabres, Big C, who snapped their 18-game winless streak with a 6-1 victory at home over the Philadelphia Flyers, and they did that on Hump Day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, on Frozen Pond, Charlton, the Buffalo Sabres got their hoofs down, Charlton, and got out of that losing streak. I mean, they scored a 6-1 victory. I mean, they haven't scored that many points, Charlton, in a long, long time. But, when you get on a winning streak of one game, you feel proud about yourself. Hopefully they won't celebrate too much, take down too much libations, and not be ready to play the next night.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be something if we could, how they cross MMA and they cross boxing to see who could win? We know there's different rules when they change leagues and change sports. What if we had the Houston Rockets of the NBA and the Buffalo Sabres of the NHL play a game? Houston had lost 20 in a row, I believe, and then the Buffalo Sabres snapped their 18. Who would you pick to come out on top? I know you'd probably pick Buffalo if they played on ice, and maybe Houston if they played on wood. Fix your thoughts.
Well, you have to understand, professional hockey players are probably the greatest athletes that they are. When you think about men of this size, especially Zdeno Chara, who is 6'9", who plays for the Washington Capitals, that he can run around on knives on his feet on ice, Charlton, and be that graceful. And most NHL players look like linebackers or defensive backs in the NFL. So they can go out and compete in another sport where those other athletes cannot go out and compete on ice. So when you think about the credibility of an NHL professional athlete, Charlton, they're the most superior athletes in all of professional sports.
Yeah, some people say maybe so, but maybe not. I still take football players being tougher as all fair in level war. Sam Reinhart, Big C, and Curtis Lazard scored in their first period to give Buffalo a 2-0 lead, and then Stephen Fogarty and Casey Middlestat added goals in the second period to make it 4-1 entering the third period, and they were able to celebrate in Buffalo. I don't know if they have that mafia called the Bills Mafia following the Buffalo, the Sabres Mafia, Big C, but that'd be a good start. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is a team that's represented that city well, Charlton, over the years. This is one of those down seasons that they have. If you look at the Bills, they were down for an entire decade. The Sabres are having a very tough season.
Yeah.
But, they're still fighting through it, and they came out with that victory last night, Charlton, to stop that 18-game skid.
Yep. It's all fair in love and war. And I do want to make a slight announcement because it's already concluded, and I won't get into what's going on with the second game, but congratulations to the West Coast. The women of the West Coast, the Stafford Cardinal, the lady Stafford Cardinal, Tara Vanderbilt, they go to 30-2, Big C. They snap the. Well, I don't know what a gamecock is, Big C, but it probably tastes good on barbecue. But Stafford 66 in South Carolina, it was 65. They finished at 26-5. And just so you know, that's a Pac-12 team again having its way with the ladies from down south of the SEC. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there was some egregious non-calls in that game that helped
there you go
get
again.
over the hump. And when you go back and you watch that game, you'll see some situations where, the officials just straight out blew calls. There was one situation late in the game where Stanford kicked a basketball, recovered it, and went down and got a game go-ahead shot in the game that helped lead them to the victory. And even late in the game when South Carolina was trying to get up a shot, Stanford fouls a player all out of what we saw last week with Baylor and UConn, Charlton, and no foul was made. And on one other situation, one of the South Carolina players was driving to the basket. One of the young ladies from Stanford pushed her in the back. There was still no call. So, I mean, officiating has took a terrible role in the college basketball playoffs this year, Charlton, both on the men's and women's side. And it's one of the things that a lot of people have become very frustrated with. The officials playing key roles in the outcomes of basketball games this entire tournament, Charlton, which has been egregious.
It's ironic that you would make that statement, Big C, because, UConn, they advanced, and I think Baylor had the same kind of sentiments, too, in their loss. But it's awfully funny how when the West Coast teams beat the Southeast Conference teams in anything, they always say there was cheating and someone fouled and someone hit them too hard. It's all fair in love and war. I wish the ladies nothing but the best. We have the Arizona game coming up against UConn also that they're going to play that game later this evening. Wish them nothing but the best. I want to finish out with some thoughts on some college athletics. Associated Press survey, athletic directors, they fear sharing revenue, Big C, with college athletes. In an Associated Press survey sent to 357 Division I athletic directors, 69% of the respondents, they said that they were strongly now listen up, women and men, okay? Especially when you're not making millions of dollars coaching sports for these young players. They strongly oppose being required to give college athletes a share of the university's revenue designed or derived from the sports where the money's made by the athletes. The money would not be made if it were not for the athletes. But you have the Division I presidents and athletic directors, they don't want to share the money with the people who earn the money. That doesn't make any sense. Another 19.6%, Big C, said that they're somewhat opposed to sharing athletic department revenues with the athletes, Big C. They don't want to share with the athletes. Almost 77% of the athletic directors, they said that many fewer schools would be competitive in sports, Big C, if the schools had to share revenues with athletes, and another 13% said somewhat fewer schools would be competitive. No one ever complains that athletic directors make millions, but they don't even want to share $50 with the student athletes, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we've seen this over the history of collegiate sports. They don't want to share the money with black potential head coach hirees. They will not hire them. They're not going to give it to a black grown man. You think they're going to willingly want to give it to black student athletes? This has been the oppression of college athletics over the years. They're fine as long as those athletes are out there helping those universities generate millions of dollars. They don't mind paying a head coach at a major university anywhere between $4 and $10 million a year because he's sweating his butt off while those players are beating each other up on the field. He's nervous. He's the guy that's got to talk to the boosters and make them donate money.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a problem in giving some of the money to the student athletes, Charlton, reduce those coaches' salaries in half and disperse that amongst the student athletes. If you have a problem in giving these student athletes the money because they generate millions of dollars for your institution and saying that they're not worthy of a damn dime from you, Charles, that they should be satisfied with the scholarships that you're getting. This is basically what Jim Crow and athletics are all about. You work for us, but we're not giving you a damn dime.
It's a lot like what happened in the world of reparations. Brown University, Ivy League school, they did a survey where 80% of the student body, they feel that reparations is due. And they support reparations, not just studying, but they support reparations. Great Brown University trying to figure out ways on how they can do that for descendants of slaves. And when people say, oh, we don't need to deal with reparations, that makes people sweat, Big C. And people just got to know that reparations for citizens have happened all over the world, except for African Americans. The United States of America paid Japanese American citizens reparations after wrongfully holding 120,000 people in internment camps during World War II. Colombia, the government paid reparations to citizens of the war that spanned 5 decades. Over $23 billion was allocated to victims. South Africa, the government paid it's $3,900 to victims of apartheid crimes in 2003, and the reparations totaled $85 million, Big C. When you think about Peru, they paid reparations. The Philippines have paid reparations. Everybody, the United Kingdom, paid a little more than $25 million to 5,000 Kenyans who were victims of violence in their situation that they had. Germany, after World War II, paid reparations to Holocaust victims of $7 billion. By 2012, the German government had paid $89 billion in reparations, Big C, to survivors as well. So for anyone that says, we don't know what reparations are, we don't know how to pay reparations, but we don't want to study it, we just want to say, hey, we gave you a black president, the great Mitch McConnell. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I would love for you to give me a lecture on how the United States gets over their racial divide and pay reparations.
Well, it's part of what it's going to take all of our political leaders to come together, and even business leaders to come together. I think if you look at Manfred, he did some form of a punishment to the Georgia governor by moving the All-Star game out of Atlanta and out of the whole state of Georgia. That takes money out of the pockets and the coffers of the people down in Georgia. And so it's always going to be a study, Big C. I want to close with this. I know people want to see March Madness, but the world has paid reparations to everyone but African-American descendants whose ancestors were enslaved from 1619 to 1865, and then 100 years of Jim Crow. You had bank redlining, helping create the nation's wealthiest nation on the planet Earth, United States of America. Black Americans got Jim Crow. We got sports, Big C. We got heroes. We got Black Lives Matter marches all over this country, in fact, all over the world. We have the criminal justice system complex, mass incorporation, COVID-19, the service industry lost a lot of jobs that affected mainly people of color, poor school districts, poor water, poor grocery stores in minority neighborhoods, voter obstruction even happening as Manfred tried to address down in Georgia, even fighting every war for enslaving a country, Big C. Enslaved in a country, fought every war for that country, and now we're all focused on March Madness. It's not a simple solution. It's one that requires dialogue from smart people. Manfred didn't take 400 years to decide how to right or wrong. He did it with one stroke of a pen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you have to think about it. It is the white Congress of the United States that has always opposed reparations for people of color. It is a very simple solution, Charlton. When you vote those old white men out who have those Cronian ideas of slavery and oppression and Jim Crow, then you can get reparations. But until you vote them out, it will never exist.
Well, Manfred did his thing without waiting for people to get out of office. It's just about good people doing the right thing, and it's always fair.
He represents a league of color, Charlton. When you think about Major League Baseball and its representation of color, it's greater than the percentage in society. And those people that he represents control what he can do and say. And when those players, just like in the NBA, take a stance and say, we will not play in a place that represents oppression, you have no choice as a commissioner other than to move the game. And you have the Congress of the United States that is 90% white, and majority old white men, Charlton, they're not going to make a move to represent black people in America. They never have.
Yeah, well, things are changing, and just like things change with the Georgia turning the Senate Democratic favor, things do change. You just need people who see it, and people who don't see it, just leave them to the side. It's all fair and level war. I want to congratulate Stanford University advancing to the women's Final Four, trying to become the best women's basketball team in the universe. May they face UConn or Arizona. I want to say early graduation or congratulations to Gonzaga and UCLA, and also Houston and Baylor. May they have a great tournament. And Major League Baseball is back. The pitch hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. May we have great baseball played this weekend. Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble with all you've got to use. How can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I'd like to congratulate the young men and young women of college basketball who are in search of their national championship in 2021. It's been a tough, rigorous season all year long with what they've had to endure and go through. It has not been a state of normalcy for men's and women's college basketball.
Right.
But they have endured, and we've seen some great outcomes, Charlton, from their on-the-court competition, and let it continue throughout the weekend. Once again, I want to say thank you to our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses and doctors and first responders. They endure every endeavor that's put in front of them, and they always succeed.
And they always succeed, and they have that one shiny moment. You can have that shiny moment too when you rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.